Hey guys, out here in the shop, thought I'd shoot a little video. What are we working on? We've got an old Mac. Bought this a while back. It's a 1-51. We're going to try to build a Hotsaw. What these are is basically a watered down cart engine. This is one of the better ones though. It has a removable head. It has all 6 transfer ports drilled out in it. Most of your 250s and 200s and anything below the 151 only has 4. We're going to cut some boost ports into it. We're going to dial in exhaust port timing, and I don't know that I'll have to mess the transfer ports. If we do, we will, but let's see. We have a MC49 cart manifold. It uses a Walbro style carb. We'll be running a carb for a Husqvarna 390 XP. It should feed it really well. We'll have to put this impulse line into the crankcase somewhere, but it's no big deal. We've got a GM cart header to go on it. I've already had it on a saw. It's really loud, sounds real nice. Got all new gaskets, all McCulloch OEM stuff. I've got good new cable rings. I've got good bearings. I've got a really nice piston. What else? Got good crank seals. At least they look good. I hope they're good. If you're not familiar with these, it's basically a Mac 250. Got several different tank setups I could use. I've got one with auto oiler, one without. Got a wrap handlebar, I've got a half wrap. Just, I don't know, whatever I decide to do, everything will be blasted, it'll be painted. Whether it runs good or not, it'll look good. But with that said, we're gonna get into some port work here. I've got everything here minus the carbs, so once I get started on it and set in on it, it shouldn't take too long to get done. But if the temperature goes back up and gets really hot again, it'll just be pushed to the side. We're going to get into the port work on this old Mac. The first thing we're going to do is try to cut all these ribs out. Okay, we've got all the ribs cut out, got everything smoothed down. It's not 100% perfect, but I'm not a CNC lathe either, so we do have a lot of all of the rough edges knocked down, or any of the sharp edges, and we done a little bit of, I guess you could call it, flow characteristics here. We want the air and fuel mix to come out of the bottom of the saw, the crankcase, up into these transfers. That's the whole point of this. But we're going to have to get creative on cutting the boost ports in. They will feed off of this side of the cylinder. I'm not going to make them big. They won't be as big as these. They'll just be 2 small boost ports. They should help. I'm thinking of either coming in with the drill bit through the exhaust port, or taking a ball cutter and going in and just putting my initial small hole in first. But we'll just have to see. I'll show you what I figure out when I figure it out. Okay, we got our boost ports cut in. They're about dead even with the tops of the transfer ports. Not the prettiest things in the world, but they will work. What we done was went in with the ball head cutter and cut through on the back side. Then we came through the exhaust port, the long drill bit, and punched our hole on through and clean. And then we took our cutter and cut our, I guess you could say, finger ports up off of those to match our transfers. And then we finished with a grinding stone to make everything smooth to where it won't hang a ring. And we've got them angled up and back, so theoretically they shouldn't be trying to shoot out the exhaust and should shoot to the top of the combustion chamber, or at least that's what I hope happens. Next, I'm gonna get into cleaning this exhaust port up. Exhaust port's done, about all I'm gonna do with it. Timing should be pretty dang close. If not, we'll just live with it. The boost ports should have added a lot of RPM anyway, and as you can see, we significantly opened those up. And that's about all the port work you do to these. Okay, we've got our crankcase assembly together. Got our cylinder head on. We did take some material off of that. It actually probably needs a lot more taken off, but it should make quite a bit more compression than it would have stock, because I took a little bit off the block, a little bit off of the cylinder head, and kind of cleaned up the gasket. It's like a compressed aluminum gasket on these things. I'm sure I could have got a thinner one, but oh well, whatever. I showed all the port work, or you should see it in like a little short video. Got her block painted and baked. This painted and baked. It kind of orange peeled pretty bad, but it was raining out when I done it, and I'm not really concerned about it. Intake manifold. Okay, this carburetor is for a Husqvarna 390 XP. Pretty big mouth on it. We've got, that's a spacer, phenolic spacer off of a Mac 1010. We did have to hog that out to match this carburetor. And to feed the impulse, or the fuel pump, what we done is, this is a fitting out of an old carburetor. We drilled the manifold, and that's a press fit into that, so it should never come off. They're in a carburetor the same way, so it doesn't really matter. I've got my handle trimmed back. It's just going to be locked from here back. And I've got to come up with throttle linkage. The choke, I ain't really too worried about it. We can choke it like that. It's no big deal. As far as an air filter, what I'll do when I get a little more extra money is order a velocity stack and cone filter set up. Whether the thing runs good, it'll look cool anyway, and it should sound good. It's 80 cc's and it's ported, and should run really well. We've got a electronic ignition chip to go on it, and we will advance our ignition timing. I've got to kind of piece together a starter cover assembly. I think I've got enough parts to make one good one, I hope. And I'm going to reuse the 151 tank assembly. I've got it sitting over here where I had it in the parts washer. It's the one that originally came off the saw. We have one, I don't know if I showed it or not, off of a 550 with an automatic oiler, but there's a leak somewhere, and that thing works off of crankcase vacuum, and I'm kind of skeptical of getting an air leak around it and having to tear the tank assembly back off, and I really don't want to do that. So we'll probably tear this apart shortly and get it blasted, painted. It's got a plastic line in it. I'm not sure that I'll be able to bake it, but we'll see. I can probably bake it at a low temperature. The deal with baking the paint, it just makes it a little harder to scratch, and it cures instantly. But anyway, there's a little quick update. Once I get more, I'll show you them. Okay, we're getting there, starting to look like a saw. I do have the handle back here laying somewhere. We'll have to come up with a, I've got some real stiff wire I'm going to bend and use for a trigger. We'll probably just work the choke up here behind. Shouldn't be a problem. About all that's left now is to come up with a good starter cover. The spring and the bushings and the one that came on it are fine. It just looks a little rough, so I've got to clean it up. Probably going to paint it yellow to match this outer shroud. Went with the 151 tank and oiler because it worked good, and the tank seemed to be in good shape after it was blasted. This cover we blasted and got all the paint off, polished it, clear coated it. I think it looks really good. I am going to go with the big full wrap because it was stainless and it'll clean up really nice. Yeah, it's starting to look like a saw. We've got our Nova chip on it under the flywheel mounted. What else? I'd already showed the carb set up and the impulse. We went the pretty heavy fuel line all the way into the tank. I pressed that fit and out that normally comes in these. It takes the big 1/4 inch rubber hose. I don't like that, and this line here will feed this carb just fine. But yeah, it's just a little update. Won't be long now before we got a runner. Okay, we're getting a lot closer. I just wanted to show how clean all this was before I put the cover on. I don't know how well that'll shine. The shine on that'll pick up, but it is really nice. It's I've got a couple coats of paint that's clear coated and baked. Got our time in advance. Got our coil or chip. It's got good hot spark. I've already spun it over with the drill. It's handled the reason I used it. It was garbage anyway. Trigger screwed up. But what we've got on the throttle should work just fine. Over here is our manual oiler. It works. I checked it before I ever tore the saw down. I got to get a rope on this cover. I'm going to blast the inside of the header that's going on it. I've already got it cut to fit, so it won't be long now. She's ready to put some fuel in it and see if she'll pop over, but I'll tell you, this thing has a ton of compression, more than any of these saws I've ever had. So it's like trying to crank over my 064 or the big block 066. It has some compression, but the hone and the rings went really tight on it, and we did deck some off the block, deck some off of the head, and I cleaned up that gasket a lot. It took a lot off of it, but we'll see in a bit. Alright, been trying to shoot this last clip. Phone rang the last time, but anyway, saw run, seems to run well. Doesn't seem to be any air leaks or anything. I'm not going to dial the tune up on it until I get an air filter set up on it. We won't be making a cut till then either. I've got to figure out what to do and what to order. Had a little bit of bad luck. The tank we had on it, the 151 tank, had a crack in the bottom that I didn't see. Was probably fixable, but I said, what the hell, I've got this tank, it's ready to go. We got to looking, had new gaskets. We put it on. It's better anyway because it uses the big stuffer plate off the 550. The way that works, the old tank is like a 250. It has the stuffer built on it, it's like half a stuffer. This tank uses a gasket on the block with a big stuffer plate that wraps around the crank, and then a big gasket on the back to seal up the passages for the automatic oiler. So we gained that. We have an auto oiler and a manual oiler. What else? The spring in this broke, but I think I've got a good one. I'll just have to dig through some parts and look and fix that. And we had our ignition ship wired backwards, but other than that, it went pretty well. The saw is really loud. You won't run it without earmuffs. Any questions you can ask. It'll probably be a week or so before I get a filter set up on it and a bar and chain. I've got the bar and chain, but I'm not going. I just don't want to risk sucking sawdust into this freshly built engine. It just ain't worth it. But anyway, I appreciate you watching, and you can look forward to that video sometime in the near future. Have a good one.